Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lack of Focus, episode 8. This is not going to go the way you think. I am your host, Ed Horne, and alongside me tonight, I've got my partner in crime and gaming, one Mr. Chad Brown. Chad, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, everybody.
And our producer extraordinaire, one Mr. Kris Sheriff. Kris, how's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks, Ed.
A little under the weather, but we'll get through it. This episode, of course, is brought to you by Galaxy Gaming Gear, who are responsible for these beauties. Chad, I've got a bag of these sitting at home for you. And for those of you in the audio format only, these are the Lack of Focus tokens that we've got made up for the show. I know some of the Patreons have gotten some of those sent out, but we have some here at the show we're going to be passing out at events and playing with on the table. So thanks a lot to those guys. In tonight's episode, second edition's out. We've played games. We have boxes. We have stuff that we've opened in 1,000 dials that we've put together. So we're going to be discussing some of the games we've been playing. We're also going to be having a special guest joining the show tonight. We'll save that for a surprise here in a moment. And in the main topic tonight, we're going to be doing arc dodging, part of the 4 pillars of X-Wing, kind of discussing the art form that is the dodgy ship. I can't wait to talk about that one. It's one of my favorite styles to play, actually. So all of that and a lot more coming up right after this. And we're back with the flight deck, and we are joined by a very special guest, one Mr. Zack Mathews from the Carolina Crates podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
Whoa, you forgot the V.
The
Oh,
Forgot the V.
I didn't, Zach. It is in parentheses.
Let me get these if it helps. Oh, God, I just got myself
oh, look at that.
These are all.
Look at that. If you are watching on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see all of the gold Millennium Falcons hanging.
Millennium Condors.
The Millennium. Ooh, look at that.
Because he is
I'm pretty proud of this. I used a comm lanyard and some zip ties to keep them all up.
That's awesome.
So
all right, so I know you know the old format of the old show and now the new show, the flight deck. We're kind of covering the squads we've been flying, things we've been doing, events we've been participating in. You were obviously in part of the Gold Squadron event.
Yes.
How'd you do? What'd you fly and how'd it go?
So it was 2 sets of pods. I went 2-1 in the first pod, losing to the runner-up of the whole event, and then my second pod I went 2-1, losing in the last round where I wasn't super engaged because it turns out my tournament stamina needs to be rebuilt because I haven't cared about an event since March. And
yeah, it gets kind of grueling towards that sixth game.
Yeah, I sat down to the last round. And I'm like, the prize is the Gold Squadron templates. They're really cool, but they're not replacing my Gen Con or my crate templates. And this guy is a local, and I like him. I tried to get him to Final Salvo, but I had a 4 dice advantage in Final Salvo, so he wimped out on that. And then
can't imagine why.
Yeah. And then so I didn't. I wasn't like, I actually realized I went the whole day without caffeine, which is weird for me.
Ooh, that's an accomplishment.
But yeah, I didn't lock into that last round and find the strength to push through. I was just like, all right, it's gonna be over pretty quick, and I conceded 4 or 5 turns into the game when it looked bad for me.
So what'd you fly anyway?
So I'm still kind of just messing around with 2.0. I'm trying to find
as most of us are.
Yeah, what we used to call list anchors, or things you can build around, or in just wind conditions. So I super love flying Fenrau. So it was Fenrau, Old Tarok, Forlom, and then I had Lando in there because he seemed better than a Z95. But that Lando actually was kind of an accident because I thought Forlom was Initiative 4. So I could do coordinate. I'm like, I can do coordinate tricks for Forlom. Oh, he's 3. So if I want to do a red move with him, Lando can't help him. But yeah, so a total of a 1-point bid in there. Because the other theory I was trying is
I thought Gurry was the correct bid, Zach.
Oh my God. So 2 days after that, I show up at my local game night, and one of my locals rolls up a list with a 14-point bid, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no. You took the wrong lesson from this.
That's the world we're going to be living in.
We chatted about that in episode 1 or something, trying to decide what the correct bid was. And we were of the opinion that 5 points was a decent bid. It was that's a chunky bid.
So I'm gonna paraphrase Chris Allen because he's really smart and I love him. Well, as I said, paraphrase, but he was talking about the other points in time when people were doing like, 5+ points in 1.0, which was which 10 plus 2.0 points. Yeah. Well, Paratani, it was the old Fenneru builds and the double Phantom builds.
Yeah. So I actually listened to this, and Chris is mistaken in his assumption that wasn't a 12-point bid. That was if I take the TIE fighter, it dies and gives up 12 points.
Well, right.
So
right, exactly.
It wasn't that they were like, oh, I'm going to go for a 12-point bid. It was like, please don't make me take an Academy pilot.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give them 12 points in tournament scoring. Yep.
Yeah, my good friend Ryan Krippendorf top 4'd at the Minnesota Regional meta, and he had cut down enough points to get Night Beast in there. Because Night Beast is really, really tanky. So if they go after Night Beast, they're shooting through Focus Evade and ignoring Echo and Whisper, which went bad for a lot of people.
Seems like a mistake.
Yeah, but absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and you can argue that, oh, look at these supernatural aces. They're similar to pre-nerf Whisper, and like, I mean, it's not wrong, but they all take damage a lot easier. So like the reason I had basically no bid is. Like the theory I want to test is, hey, if I'm, putting out enough mean competent arcs, can I just create enough of a threat blanket that, that I won't have to worry about stuff moving after. Every game, the only game I lost that I had stuff moving after my ships was the last one where. And part of it was, like I said, I was tired, but I misread it too.
Are you sure it wasn't dice variants, Zach?
My dice! Yeah, I got dice super hard. No, so my opponent had Bistan on Dash, and I misread our win conditions because I thought, like, oh, he's got to kill Fenrau if he's going to win this. And I had set Fenrau up in a corner, and we both had a 1-point bid. He won the roll, so Dash was moving after old Terok. And I put Terok kind of on the left side of the board, and he put Dash as far away from Terok as he could. And I thought he was going to set this kill box to come in for Fenrau. I thought he was kind of going to turn towards me. So I'm like, all right, this is where I think he's going to go. So I set old Terok so we'd land, range 1 where Dash's arc is pointing at it. Forlom and Lando all there. And instead of turning towards me, he kind of takes a lazy bank away. And does 2 4 dice with focus double taps into Forlom and old Terok. So I was like, oh, this is going to go bad, and I deserve it. Luke was the other ship in there, and Fen bullied Luke for a little bit, but it was like, yeah, I'm not going to fly the game. If I'm going to win this, it's going to be the game of my life. I'm going to save that for a time I'm a little more involved, like Crossroads in 2 weeks. So.
Or start getting to some of the hyperspace qualifiers or something like that. Really start getting your chops cut in there for those.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm going to keep flying this list. It felt like I could win a store championship with it, but it doesn't quite feel like ready for prime time, as it were. I'll tweak around. Right away I would switch Lando down to L3 so I can coordinate to Forlom before he moves. And that does give me points. I can grab like the Miss Hunter title on him. And a little bit of a bid. So like if I were going to try this exact list, but I'm still sort of shuffling parts. I played a bounty hunter with the fangs. I tried Han.
What did you hold on before you go too far? What did you feel? How well do you feel that the fire spray has improved in second ed?
Oh, it's a tremendous ship. I mean, the dial's fantastic. There was a reason why I immediately gravitated to it as the third ship with Fen and old Terok. The dial's fantastic. The rear arc is really nice because there's still situations where one of the things why on a long list of reasons why 1.0 devolved the way it did is lists could really punish you for engaging naturally. So like flying, this is a visual, flying at them, you had like bump masters and trajectory simulator and stuff. So being able to fly away from your opponent while still getting meaningful shots was really useful. And like in some test games against like TIE swarms and stuff, the fact that the fire spray, if you fly it right, has almost no downtime. It's just constantly shooting. And then, it picks up boost, which is fantastic. the original build that I did with, Fen, Old Tarok, and a generic fire spray, you have 10 points for activities. The fire spray's got a lot of really good slots on it. If you take the Marauder title, you can grab Han Gunner, who I'm up and down on. I see a lot of people take him with like a coordinate carrier, but Han and the coordinate carrier don't get along. And then, he grabs Reinforce, which might still be good in 2.0. It's
still,
it's not
that
as good
one's
as
still out to be
1.0.
judged.
It's not as good as 1.0.
1.0, but that doesn't mean it's terrible.
It's good.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, I originally looked at it as a rig cargo chute carrier. Although rig cargo chute, people reading the rules really closely seem to think it's not as devastating. Kris, I don't know what side you are on that. I mean, it's still good, but
so I feel it's good. Even if they rule it that it doesn't apply stress when you drop it, which I don't think they will. I think that bombs go. I think mines go off when they hit people. Stop reading the rules backwards, you idiots. And if that's how mines work, that's how rig cargo chute has to work. It has to give you its thing when it hits you.
Because doesn't it fall into the category of devices?
Yeah.
Like, even though I recognize it's adding technically terrain to the board, it still would qualify as a device and would still follow those same rules.
So there is a section of the rule book which deals with the word overlap, which is clarifying it for when you're moving. But because it only references moving, people are assuming that the actual word overlap, it's FFG being FFG, basically. They've used a word that they've defined in a way that they've not defined it. So they either need to errata the definition of overlap or errata a card to say when the template is on top of a ship. So, but yeah, I think it's good. Even if they go the other way, you can control obstructions, you can give yourself extra dice with it, you can control a board with it, which I think is still a powerful aspect of the game if you can leverage
I mean, it's still... I mean, if you place it right, even if you're just getting a single stress, like that's still really good against a lot of relevant ships. And if you place on a supernatural ace, they can't boost their barrel roll while they're on that because you can't boost a barrel roll over obstacles.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. I don't think that even if it's as the worst it can be errated to or whatever, it still has a lot of value. So,
well, at this point, I was going to kick over to Chad, but Chad looks like he walked away from his camera for a little bit. I'm not sure.
He said he's going to be back in a second. So, if you want to do me next, I can fill until he comes back.
All up to you, Kris.
Okay, so
what have you been flying lately, my friend?
So, my mum and dad arrived from the UK as we finished recording last week.
Yeah, that's the reason why we had a hard stop for last episode.
Yeah, so I've been with my mum and dad all week. They literally left today, so they were here for a full period of in-between shows. So I haven't actually played again since last show. I did run the draft, and I feel like it went really well. Everyone enjoyed it. I'll post up the links to it as part of the show notes to this one, in case people want to steal it. But one bit of advice I would give is that I took out the afterburners from a core set that was included in the draft and used that as an extra prizing, because it gets a bit salty if people are hunting for that afterburner.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So what kind of I guess those were what kind of list I was going to say, what kind of list you're going to see, but they're all kind of like pre-gen.
So the funny thing about it was that some people, because it was the day after launch, people came at it in completely different ways. So you had the people who were trying to win the event, who were like drafting lists. You had the people who were only playing one faction, who were trying to draft stuff that they couldn't otherwise get in their faction. And then you had the people who were trying to draft extras of things they needed, like extra barrage rockets.
So you're having people keep their cards.
Oh, yeah.
That was the thing that I just picked up on. I was like, oh, wait, so they get to keep everything.
Yeah. So everything they got to draft, they kept, and then whoever won got the afterburners. See, that's the chase card from the set. So,
okay.
because we had more of I'd designed it to work with 8 people, and then Greg, the manager, dropped on me that he didn't want to cap it at 8 because he thought it was a bit small. He wanted to cap it at 16, so I had to double it again and sort a second pod's worth of stuff out.
Oh, jeez.
So
yeah, I was gonna say, that's pretty much what you have to do then.
Yeah.
Like, spoiler alert: drafts only work with an exact amount of people.
Yeah. So I didn't actually divide them into 2 even pods. I mixed the packs up, so they were actually getting blind packs. So on one pod, you had Dash and Luke Gunner twice. People let Dash get Outrider and Luke Gunner twice in the same pod. That's how determined people were to just draft what they wanted and never actually look across what other people were drafting.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing. So we ran into that at Gen Con. Like, there were a couple Magic players who've done drafts and stuff before. And then there were a lot of people who were like, oh, I'm in on the memes on this, or I like this. And there's the one guy who's like trying to build his list. And I sat here and immediately I'm like, dude, I'm going to get like 400 points in the 2 factions I draft and probably at least 150 in the 3rd faction. So I'll just draft what's good and figure it out later.
So the way I ran it as well is that you had to build 2 lists, but they could be from the same faction. But you couldn't duplicate unique cards across the lists. So if you took Vader Pilot, you could take Vader Crew in your other list, but Vader Pilot couldn't be in both.
That makes sense.
It worked pretty well, actually. It let you be more driven towards your draft. People actually went for a TIE Swarm because then you can flip the cardboard over and use the other side of the cardboard. And it solved a problem that Chris Allen was talking about when we were chatting about how to do it. And that he said there was very little reason for people to draft generics. If you can draft all from the same, if you can make 2 lists from the same faction, an extra generic here and there actually becomes a little bit more appealing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I concur there.
That's what I was up to. Like I said, I'll share the card list and everything you require.
Do you feel like it would work okay if people were if you just put all the cards back in a pool at the end?
That's what we're going to do for the next one, because I don't know what the turnout... We charged 25 Canadian, which is half the price of a conversion kit in Canada. Well done, FFG and Asmodee Canada. We charged half the price of a kit, which literally just covered the cost of the kit, not the hours I had to put into sorting cards.
Right.
And I don't know, now that we've done the draft, I don't know that you get the same turnout for people trying to get the same cards again. So if we do it again, we'll do it as it'll be a cube rather than a draft where it's a store's copy and it'll all go back to the store afterwards.
Was there a monkey knife fight for the Darth Maul crew card?
So
I know a lot of Imperial players who were salty about that.
So the ones that people were chasing were obviously Maul for the Rebels, barrage rockets for Rebels as well, 000 and BT for the Imperials because they come in the Scum kit. Right. And then there's some...
Oh yeah, BT can hang out with Vader too, can't he?
Yes, he can.
So
thank you, comics.
It was pretty interesting the way people did it, but pretty good fun.
Cool. All right, Chad, you've joined us. I was going to kick the ball over to you, but you kind of vanished from screen there for a moment. What have you been flying lately, my friend? We played a game of X-Wing.
Yes, second edition.
Second edition, no less.
I know. I almost crapped myself because you played a game.
I did. You were there. You saw it all.
Yes, I saw you sit there, you put all your ships on the table, and I watched you go down in flames.
Yeah, I did not. Well, we'll get into that real quick. So, all of my stuff, we had some issues with our local game store in the fact that they only purchased 20 total starter sets, and they between two stores.
Seems like a mistake.
And sent three to our store and the other 17 set at the other store in Indiana. So by the time I got there on Friday to pick up my stuff, The only thing I had was the Empire conversion kit and the Rebel conversion kit, which thankfully Chad sat on for me, or those would have been gone too.
And a Y-Wing.
And a Y-Wing. And that was it.
So you only need 4 more Y-Wings then.
Yeah, because no, you get 2 in the conversion kit, don't you? So I think I have enough. Yeah, so I need 1 more is really what I need. But in any case, so I had a work thing on Saturday, so all of the events that were going on for the open event I couldn't make because I had a SharePoint Saturday I had to attend, which was all day. So on the way back from Pittsburgh, I stopped off at Mr. Nice Guys Games, and they conveniently had oodles of starter kits. So I picked one up while I was there. They did not, however, have these beauties.
Oh, the big decks?
Look at that. So I will give my quick shout out to those folks at Team Covenant. They held true to their word. I pre-purchased my starter kit from them at MSRP and paid shipping for it, but they had guaranteed that if you pre-ordered that you would get your damage deck. We had gone over this in the previous Lack of Focus episode that we covered all the complaints that people had that they did not get get theirs, but lo and behold, mine showed up in the mail, and I was super happy to have it. And then we played a game at my house, and I followed my creed, and I played Tide Storm. I've got my list. And I lost. It wasn't the list's fault. It was totally my fault. And having not played X-Wing in forever is really the reason. It did everything it was supposed to in the opening engagement. And
did you take your list or my list?
So I took a combo, actually.
Okay. So you messed my list up. That's okay.
No.
You took your list and made it worse.
I took a piece of advice that you had given out, which was swarm tactics to be able to pass around the initiative around. So I ran Howl Runner with swarm tactics, and I ran Del Mico with swarm tactics. And those guys were the block 6 that flew around. But one of the things that you had said that I really took to heart was if you're going to run 7 ties, you usually have that flanker. And I'm like, all right, so I'm looking around to see which TIE fighter looks like a flanker to me. And I landed on Gideon Husk. He basically has the same ability as like Backstabber did, only better. So once you're able to damage a card, and we're assuming that by damage it means not shields taken off, it means you actually have a damage card on it. I think we've interpreted the rules correctly there. He's rolling extra attack dice. So for all intents and purposes, he's running the same thing. He's actually proccing more often than Backstabber used to.
Yeah, he's a Scourge from the Gonzati.
Yeah, exactly. And then I ran 2 Obsidians and 2 Academies to fill out my 7 TIE Fighter swarm. My opening engagement, I did exactly what I wanted to. I lured him into a kill box, and I blew Mancktelow off the board. And then I subsequently began to fly like crap, and Darth Vader handed me my ass. Because in the meantime, I'm sitting here strategizing. This is the list I'm going to run. I'm picking it apart and deciding the key pieces to add to it. And then Chad's like, yeah, no, I threw this list together and it beat the crap out of you. So as always, Chad crushes one of my lists.
How dare you, Chad? How dare you actually get to the side of his ships out of arc?
Well, really?
Wow. Wait, you didn't joust? How dishonorable.
Vader is a beast.
So here's the fun part. Ed was sitting there going on about, oh, yeah, so I could throw this guy's initiative here, this guy's initiative there. He didn't do that for over half the game.
No, because I waited for key moments when I really wanted, because there were certain pieces. First of all, with Vader on the board and Mancktelow on the board, it didn't matter. Because you had a niche, and even if I'm tossing around the initiatives, it didn't matter because you were still shooting before I was. Once Mark went off the board and it was the Reaper and Vader, it did matter because I can get above the Reaper and take shots at it. And there was a moment in the game where I'm bouncing around skills. If I can damage the Reaper, then Gideon's getting his extra dice. Of course, Chad's green dice were pretty amazing that night, and it didn't happen. But I had all of those synergies there and all those pieces in place. It's just dice did not agree with me that night.
So
but,
you know what the wrong part of your statement was that you just made?
All of it?
No, the whole thing of it didn't matter until after Steel was off the board. There's a thing called simultaneous fire.
No, I know.
It does matter.
But it mattered in that Gideon's ability needed your Reaper to be damaged to proc so that I can get the extra dice. That's where it mattered.
Right, so you use somebody else to shoot at the Reaper first.
Which I did. I used Howl Runner, I used Del Mico, and then I used Gideon. That was the whole idea, was that those 2 pilots were supposed to take that one shield off of the Reaper so that Gideon can go through and get the extra dice, and I couldn't do it. It didn't matter.
Didn't increase their initiative either, which you really would have needed to do.
It didn't matter in the end because ultimately, once Vader was on the board, Vader basically took over that entire game. I mean, I think the Reaper may have. Mark took on Academy, which was fine. I was okay trading Mark for an Academy pilot, but after that, I think the Reaper may have put a couple of pieces of damage down, and Vader just literally just picked a TIE fighter off the board every other turn until the game was over. It was disgusting because
Ed doesn't know how to fly.
So I did have a follow-up question on Chad's list. So you've flown the Reaper now. Have you flown the Space Cow in 2.0 yet?
I have not yet.
Okay. So I wanted to know.
I've gotten 2 games in, and both of them I flew the Reaper.
So, well, we'll throw it out to everyone then. Come on. What are you going to take? Reapers or Space Cows?
My next list is going to have Space Cows because I was committed to flying TIE Swarm for a little bit. When I come up on Tuesday, I'm coming up with a different list, and mine's going to have the Space Cows. So I'll let you know. I'm really interested in flying it. The rear firing arc on it is appealing. I love the idea of running good old-fashioned Fel Vader Palpatine, man. It looks like it's a pretty mean list, and having seen what Vader is capable of on the board, giving him an extra Force token with the Emperor floating around out there makes him even more tanky than he was on the. It was gross too, because like Chad would be able to pull off key turns. Like, oh no, focus token, or I'll use my Force token. There's a focus in there. I'll use my Force token for defense. It was gross. It was so bad. So
that was a strictly second edition list. It wasn't the expanded.
This is true.
So
we should kind. Yeah, we should clarify that.
I wanted to go here now. I'm going to lay my cards on the table. We are going to use Ed's favorite game of Magic the Gathering, and we're going to say that Chad's list was standard, whereas like Ed played extended.
No, I didn't play extended. I play standard too.
Okay, so you played a standard game.
Yeah, Chad and I both played standard. We both played in the second edition rules because I'm still because we haven't seen the competitive rules yet. We also bumped into a weird situation too. Because I know that Zach had mentioned that they were talking about Final Salvo at the Gold Squadron event.
Yeah.
But since we don't have competitive rules yet, we don't even know that Final Salvo is still a thing anymore.
Just play what you want.
To be honest, I would imagine, and that's what we did. We ended up letting the game go to a draw since we didn't have rules.
Yeah.
But I am curious as to which way they're going to go. Is what the competitive rules are going to be for draws like that if they come? Because in the scenario that my son encountered, he was running Dash with Luke Skywalker as the gunner, and it's just a gross list. I wanted to make the game as simple as possible for him because he's coming back from almost 2 years of being off. So he had, yeah, exactly. He had Dash with Luke Gunner, and then the title, and then I think he had Trick Shot, which procced more often than I thought it would. And then he just had Wedge with Outmaneuver, I think it was the EPT or the talent that we put on him. I keep saying EPT, sorry. But long story short, it was quick and easy action. It was point and shoot, and he did really, really well. But we encountered that scenario where his ship and Logan's ship both shot each other at the same time and both blew each other off the board at the same time. So technically it's a draw. So they're both at the same initial, and then we're like, all right, so what happens here?
You go to Final Salvo and you roll all of the dice your list contains.
No, but is that the official ruling?
Or
you ask a TO from the future.
Yeah.
Probably, you know what you should do is you should hit up Brian Fleming. Because we know he has a time machine that he used to steal the Crate Cup format when he made Outrider. So I bet Fleming knows.
I will have to do that. Long story short, we didn't know what to do. We let the game go we let the games to go what the old rules used to be, which whoever had initiative won. Gabe won by initiative, but it was just for fun. It was just pick up games. No big deal. Long story short, I love all the changes. Everything about the list felt the same, but better. All the stuff that I was seeing on the table felt the same, better. Vader felt amazing, which even though he was kicking my teeth in, really felt good to see Vader do really, really well on the table. So I'm looking forward to flying him myself.
That's actually a really nice thing about anytime FFG does a second edition, because like with Star Wars, that's a huge challenge they have, is you have all these iconic characters that they obviously want to put into the game, but because they have like no real idea, what's good yet, you can end up in situations where it's like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna make a Star Wars game without Luke Skywalker, but turns out we didn't know what was good at the time, so Luke's just bad forever.
Yeah.
Well, you have to understand that back in those days, Luke and Vader were good. They were good at the time that they were released. But as the game began to balloon and got bigger and more ships and the meta started piling on top of each other, those ships just got pushed out of the meta because there were better options.
It's basic problems like a green dice and a red dice are worth the same thing. So
Yes.
an X-Wing and a TIE Advanced mirrors of each other with the attack and evade dice swapped around. So they should be the same points. Apart from you've got an extra result on your red dice. So what are you doing, FFG? Come on. Crits exist. Yep. You can't have a critical evade. All right. So, yeah.
But they've learned from that lesson, and I think they've done a fine job. X-Wings seem like X-Wings. They were brutal. I know when I stopped in at Mr. Nice Guys Games on the way back, the event that they had done for their opening event had just closed out, and I bumped into Ed Radagast while I was down there, and he said that the trench run list of the 3 X-Wings cleaned house at that event. Like, just running 3 X-Wings was just brutal. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got to try that.
So all you need to do, if you ask Zach, he'll be on board with this, is you take Luke, Biggs, and Wedge, and then you fly at people.
Yeah.
And they die. They just
die. In between like points getting spoiled and me actually getting my core set, I already had the like when 2.0 got spoiled, there was a Biggs, Wedge, and Porkins bobbleheads 3-pack you could buy at Walmart. And I went out and I bought the Luke one, and I have a crafted storage box that I was going to use for a little bit. And it's right now it's just got I went back to my Stanley boxes, but it's got my Luke, Wedge, and Biggs bobbleheads for attorneys.
Very nice. Is it very similar here? I'll reach down and be unprofessional and talk away from the mic. Is it very similar to my iconic Super Chad that I take to every event?
Yes. Oh, actually, holy cow. You know what? I just realized. So there's the box.
Oh, look at that.
And here's Wedge.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Luke.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Biggs, as promised.
There we go.
Look at that. Sharing our little totems that we take to games. And like, legitimately, this thing goes with me every game.
I had a Poe Dameron action figure that got jacked at Worlds 2015. I was really sad about that. I haven't seen him since. There's Wedge.
That sucks.
Yeah, I lose something at Worlds every year. So I think I just need to stop bringing things I care about to Worlds.
Is it not normally a dignity?
I mean, that too. I was ahead of the times the year I wrote floor rules on my arm.
Oh, dear.
All right, so that's going to do it for the flight deck. We're going to go ahead and move on to the brief news segment right after this. All right, we're back, and in the news, we've got a couple of pieces real quick to cover. First and foremost, a good friend of the old show, a new friend, and still a friend of mine, Jeremy Chumby, got an interview posted on FFG's website. This one is a little dated. This one is referencing to his invitational win that he won way back in the early part of the year. He looks happy in the picture that I'm looking at. It did kind of discuss his event and the list that he ran. A little curious that they wouldn't have updated this for second edition. We were joking off mic while we were getting pre-prep that you'd figure almost that everything first edition related would have been wiped from their website and wiped from the memory banks. But they're still referencing some of the stuff in a good article. And Jeremy's a friend, and I'm happy to see his name's on FFG's website. Yep. And that's it for that. Congratulations, Jeremy. The app, let's get into it. So there have been some updates to the app. I know whenever we first talked, the app had literally just dropped and broken. There have been some updates since. I know that there are still some concerns. There are still some areas where it's not functioning 100% correct. I myself have not had any problems. I literally, if I'm sitting at work at lunch and I got bored, I can sit there and build lists all day long, and everything seems to be fine to me. Whatever errors and bugs other people are encountering, I myself have not found. It was buggy the first days, a couple of days it came out, but now that we're 2 weeks post, I think mine's up to 1.3. I think it is. I'm happy where it is. I recognize it's not going to be perfect, but we don't really have a full blown competitive event coming for some time yet, so they've got oodles of time to fix it up before we get there.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. What is it, like March is when they start? Well, I guess there's probably a system open at there's an X-Wing event at Penny Arcade Unplugged in December.
Was this not the one that was like last year, and they couldn't announce that it was a system open until it was like really close, and FFG announced it, and it turned out it was a system open
until it's officially a system open because they couldn't give that away.
So if that happened again, it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Yes, correct.
Like maybe we saw that one coming.
I don't know any facts, so I can speculate on things like this. It's fine. I am not in the loop on any of this at all.
I am looking forward to, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit on the flight deck. I am looking forward to seeing like the official competitive rules to find out how, because I mean we're all kind of. I got into this conversation at the game store while I was shortly. They were all kind of under the assumption that the scoring system is going to remain basically the same, except adjusted for 2.0 points. Half points are already calculated in the app.
So
final salvo.
For the draft tournament, I still use Tome, which hadn't been updated to 2nd edition. So because I'm like really competent, and I spent hours agonizing over what to do, and then just divided everything by 2 and put it in.
Does Tom recognize fractions?
No one cares, Zach. Like literally, do you know how many people came back and was like, I was half a point off? No one.
Hey man, the last tournament that I cared about, I made the cut by 6 MOVs, so sometimes that adds up.
Yep. I missed the cut by 1 point. The last big one that I was at, so I know how that feels.
So
Logan did.
Clay won his Afterburner card by 7 MOV, I think it was.
Oh, see, there you go.
There you go. Points matter.
No one questioned it, so it's all fine.
And those events are meant to be fun.
And
to be honest,
that's the thing. Like, that's exactly it. These are all fun events. They're casual events.
The first person who questions me gets DQ'd, and then I ask if there's any more questions.
Remind me to play in one of Chris's events. Hey, Chris, where's the bathroom? You're out.
I did feel bad running this tournament because the first person who signed up and like prepaid, got delayed at work. So I started off the other pod that he wasn't drawn into. I spent ages trying to explain the rules, trying to give him time to arrive. And then he arrived like 10 minutes after we'd started drafting, and I just said, no, you can't play. Here's your money back. Because I'm doing a draft that started at 6:30 in the evening. There's no way.
And all the cards have been drafted. Everything's done.
It's not even. I could have made it work, but it's not his fault. It was delayed at work. But equally, I'm not going to punish every other player there by making them stay an extra hour. Like we finished at 2:30 in the morning.
That was the only draft league I've ever done. Is I got delayed and I missed like the first 5 rounds.
Oh dear.
The game store owner I'm under, we've got a rule that we can't do events that I can't do leagues that you can't jump in and leave at any time.
Gotcha.
That's my only rule for leagues is that.
Yeah.
So once a league started, you're in.
Yeah, you can. So I usually run them for like 8 weeks, and it's get 10 games in. So if you want to show up 2 weeks and grind out 5 games, and the other one we added is you can't have more than 2 games count against the same person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we had a league, I think it was right before I started, 2 people showed up on a non-league night or non-game night and played like 4 games against each other, and one dude went 4-0 against the other one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had similar things with some of the leagues that we ran at that store because we have a couple of particular players who are perennials. Like the door's open and they're there, the door's closed and they're just leaving. So they're able to squeeze in like dozens of games in a day, whereas some players only come in and can only do 2 a night. And there needs to be a way to balance that out.
The problem with that kind of format is when you play it, even if you can only log like 2 games against a given opponent, like me and Zach play, I lose 2 games to Zach, so he's got his 200 or 200 wins. Then we play again. Zach no one gives any fucks, so I crush him 200. So we've played 4 games, each reported our 2, and we're sitting at like perfect MOV.
Oh, we account for it's 2 games between 2 people.
Yeah.
But the one thing we do is to help account for like the grinders who are in there all the time. It's your record across the 10 games that you reported, but we always do a raffle, and every game you get over your 10 gets you an additional raffle ticket.
Yeah.
So that way, like, there's one guy who, he shows up every week. He's always there getting his games in. And, by the end of the league, all of us have, we'll have a 14-person league, and he'll have played like 18 or 19 games. And that way, if he wants to keep playing the league, he's incentivized to, because he doesn't travel and go to tournaments. So, he really likes these leagues. No one else is sitting there like, his name's Kris, and no one's like, well, I've got 9 games in the league, and, but Kris has already got his league done. So I guess we're just going to stand there and not play. And
yeah, that was kind of the problem that we had too, especially with the folks that sometimes come in, and then myself, I'm going to be guilty of it. 2 weeks in a row, can't make it because of this or that or anything else. And then all of a sudden that's the person's like, well, we're standing here. I'd like to play X-Wing, but we'd like it to count. So how do you balance that? That's actually a really good idea. I think we might steal that. That's actually really good.
Yeah, raffles. So I stole that from Tyler Tippett. Raffles are a really good idea in general, especially like if you have a couple groups of people who tend to win. Like it makes sure that the prizes go to the whole group.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've got Nathan in my group, so like there's a lot of leagues that it's Nathan or I, and it's probably a good idea, but we don't always walk out with the stuff, so everyone comes out happy.
Yeah, I always, when we just do kit events as well, it's always a draft at the end. You win. So I bought a lot for the store. I bought a load of, I'm going to have to bring one home. Construct your own, it says, you're a winner in big yellow writing on a blue background. And it's a construct your own trophy out of paper.
Oh, we have a guy who...
So if you win, you get that. And then you just get first pick in the draft for the prizes.
I got to go see if I can find it, but we have a guy, I'm going to run and grab it after this. We have a guy, he's a Magic player, but he does all the like accounting for our league and enters it in a spreadsheet and everything, who just sort of listens to the games and then makes like he hand draws a card based on it. So I know I've got one of them from my last league. Let me go grab it. I know right where it is. You guys continue on. I'll have it.
We will continue.
We'll continue with the news. So there isn't any.
Yeah, so there is no more news.
There was a Resistance trailer.
Oh, there is indeed a Resistance trailer, or a new trailer for a Resistance, which shows off ships. Looks like a TIE interceptor. People are saying that the wings are a bit more curved, so it might not be an interceptor. It could be something else.
Maybe it's a TIE interceptor prototype.
Yeah.
Oh no, because it
would be for Resistance.
Yeah, I was gonna say for Resistance. No, now that I've said that, no, I have not seen that trailer. I'm gonna have to look that up in between segments here.
Ed is so far out of doing anything with Star Wars that he doesn't understand that a prototype comes before the regular one.
I just misspoke on that one. I screwed up. No, we had such a weird day today at work because we had a fire drill first thing this morning. Today is our professional development where they have all these speakers come in, and we had a couple as the IT team were required to be there for because they're part of our thing. So that burned 2 hours of my time. And then we had the fire safety one that we had to do where they were actually setting fires in the parking lot. We all got to use fire extinguishers and put out fire.
Did you get to pick the wrong extinguisher?
No, I was good. I'm fine. I did just fine.
When we used to do them in the Air Force, you used to get to pick a fire extinguisher and try and put the fire out. So it's like, this oil fire, what are you going to use? Water. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? I'm going to use water to put this fire out. You're going to stop me? You're going to let me spray water on this?
Well, we had that, and then they decided to do our active shooter drill on top of it, where they have actually a couple of people run through the office with Nerf guns and pretend to be an active shooter.
So again, when I was in the Air Force, it was in the UK, so we didn't do active shooter drills. When I was in the actual military, where getting shot at was a real possibility in my job, we didn't do active shooter drills, Ed.
Yeah, but you guys were trained. We're talking office workers here, okay? Long story short, I was out of my office for a vast majority of the day, and I wasn't able to keep up on anything. And then my son had cross country after work, and then I came down to here. So that's been like my entire day. So this is me relaxing because I haven't done that yet all day until tonight.
Oh.
All right, so that was news. That's completely off topic. We wouldn't be lack of focus if we hadn't gone off topic. We have a theme to do.
Wait, hold on. So this we did a style league where certain things got you points. And the guy messed up. It was supposed to be Auto Blaster Cannon, but one of them was Get Kills with Mangler Cannon. So,
Very nice.
like, all of a sudden everyone realized, they're like, that is a really low bar. So, like, one dude had, like, a 4-4 record partway through, but he was running Mangler Bosk, so he kept getting kills with it, and all of a sudden I'm like, huh, okay. So, Atani hadn't been nerfed yet. So I ran, it was like Fen, Old Tarok, and 2 Atani Seeks with Mangler Cannon. And anything that Fen and Old Tarok didn't clean up, those Mangler Cannon sure did.
Yeah.
For those on the audio format, it was a card that said Mangler Cannon Pew Pew.
And it was
really, really well drawn.
A hand-drawn.
It looked exactly like the art from the.
It was like
Mangler
Da
Cannon.
Vinci himself had drawn that.
Like Picasso himself.
There you go.
My favorite is my buddy Josh Kiefer won a league playing the Ozatux a bunch, and so the guy who does it, there's the comic with Wedge Antilles on the planet Crate, and there's a spot where he's yelling, so he printed that out and then put "ships made of wood" as Wedge's speech bubble that he was yelling, and that was the Ozatux gunship that my buddy Josh has.
It's Wedge yelling that you'll have to send a Star Destroyer for him.
That's the original quote. We have so many versions of that floating around our store with like different quotes on Wedge.
Okay, we're
We have
in massive danger of running extremely long here, so I'm gonna get Ed to call.
Bonus content.
Yeah,
The people deserve it.
they don't. I mean, I love you. Please all listen.
So do you want to do the thing now there, Kris?
Well, it's up to Zach. Do you want to call me out now, or do you want to do it in the close? So it is new. It's newsworthy for me.
It's newsworthy. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, Zach, come on. Why are you here? What do you want?
So the real reason that I'm on is, not because you love me or anything, or because
We do. That helps.
As you've probably heard, after I slew Chico, who challenged my legitimacy as the Alpha Lore Master 2000, I decided I really like beating Kris's. So I'm here to challenge you, Kris.
So I will be appearing on the Millennium Condor Intergalactic Lore Master 2000 quiz to take on the Zack Mathews.
The Zack Mathews.
We've been back and forth. I think we're recording next Thursday. Is that right?
Oh, that sounds right.
Yeah. So I demanded Bruno make sure that he only asked 2.0 questions, and Bruno said, nah, you'll get what you're given. So then I demanded other things, and Bruno said, no. Then I okay, what about it? And then Bruno said, no. And I was like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, Bruno.
Sounds good. I'm still in.
So I will be attempting to wrestle the title of Intergalactic Lore Master 2000 from Zach.
The actual exact title is oh shoot, where'd I put all my medals?
We lost the medals.
Dear, all of the medals.
It is Alpha X-Wing Intergalactic Lore Master 2000 until defeated. And then, so Kris, I don't know if you saw, I have 5 medals now.
Yeah.
Once I have all 6 medals, I can snap my fingers, and half the X-Wing editions will disappear forever.
Oh yeah. So what you're saying is that if I don't stop you, people won't be able to play 1.0 anymore.
Correct.
Well, for all of those misers who were like, I've spent 15 grand on X-Wing because mistakes were made, and I can't spend $50 on a single conversion kit.
How dare they? Those cheap
what will I ever
bastards.
do?
It's
Those
such
are
a money grab.
Like, the sad thing is when I first started playing X-Wing back around Wave 3, I was making around 20% more than I am now. And, like, it still didn't even register to me where I'm like, oh, I bought all these ships. Like, I own 6 Y-Wings, and I'm not sitting here like, oh, man, that's so unfair. I've got to buy a bunch of conversion kits. I was like, I'm probably not going to fly a list with 6 Y-Wings. I don't even think that fits. So,
Yeah,
all right.
exactly.
Yeah. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Well, and so I got not 1 but 2 core sets sitting here that I went out and got because I had to have damage decks and all the cool stuff that came with it. And I now have 20 TIE fighters sitting.
Right.
So I have 8 in my case, which is the max that you can run. And then I have a whole bunch more that I can't run. I'm not crying.
I had a local complain that there's only 6 target locks in the core set, which means he doesn't have enough for a TIE swarm. And I'm like,
we can't take target lock.
And also, he has never run a TIE swarm before. I'm like, walk me through either of these scenarios.
I mean, it could have at least picked a Z95 swarm, man. Come on, get a grip.
Right? Nope.
The only one I think that there is a potential legitimate gripe is that there isn't a lot of focus and evade tokens. And I don't know how.
Well, so there's not a lot.
It's not like you can token. It's not like you can token stack anymore anyway.
Yeah, the conversion kits are theoretically for people who carried over.
Yeah.
So we should have all.
But I set fire to all of my bombs, Zach. I set fire to my bombs because I wanted to be cool.
Everything from first edition I set fire to, so I don't have 1,000 focus tokens floating around in a box somewhere to use, or 800 target locks.
I feel like D needs to edit his mistakes were made comic to be some guys stood around a barbecue setting fire to their X-Wing. And then
he did make a new comic, actually. It just came out. So he has the same comic as last, so now he's got his trunk full of stuff, and then because he posted an actual picture.
Yeah, I saw the actual picture. But I don't think I've seen the comic.
The second panel is the same, with the wife looking angry and all this stuff. But now it says learning has not occurred.
Oh, dear. So, remember when we first started, I said that I sold all of my ships to restore? And I was going to buy... So, I've returned with a box of my own ships that I rebought from the store.
Very nice.
Zach will appreciate this one in that it kind of shows my split focus between listening to a crates and trying to get good, and my love of everything we talk about. So I got myself a 666 so that I can fly off a table and come back on because that shit just seems funny.
It is funny.
And then I bought myself a Slave 1 so that I can run Boba Fett, because why wouldn't you just joust people with Boba Fett?
Right, exactly.
Then I bought myself some more fangs because I have 2 new fangs, but then I was like, I don't want to buy 4 new fangs, but I do want to run 4 fangs. So
I did, yeah. I bought a spinny one, which gives me 4. I actually have any of you guys played the Ace Combat series?
I played it through up to PlayStation 2. So
okay, including PlayStation 2.
I'm old.
Huh?
Whoa, fucking hell. This side is going right through me.
So right now I have 2 fangs that are painted up like the protagonist and antagonist from Ace Combat 4. Yeah, Mobius 1 and Yellow 13. And then I have a buddy who paints, who I'm trying to get him. So he was a student at the time who needed money wherever he can. Now he's a fancy big shot engineer who hasn't answered my text from 3 days ago yet. Called Bob. But I'd like him to try and get him to paint up a spinny one like the Rosgri Squadron, which the colors are really similar to all the colors we use for the crates. So if he just mixes in a little bit of white, it'll be like a beautiful Rosgri / crate theme that I have in my head. But yeah, I'm going to try and get him to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to hit up other painters that I have. I'm trying to figure out who, because like Luke Carrington's like the best painter in the world, but he's like soft retired from taking commissions because he went from 0 to completely overwhelmed in those really quick. And I think he's enjoying being free right now. So, and there's a lot of guys who do really good work with airbrushes, but I don't think this is a job for an airbrush. I
happen to know a really good commission painter.
Okay.
Who happens to be on camera right now. Mr. Sheriff.
Well, all of my stuff's... I'm in the middle of a giant commission. I've only done a couple of X-Wing ships, so I don't really know if I'm actually the man he is looking for.
Trying to get you some...
So, how is your freehand? And could you have it done in time for the Crossroads Classic in Indiana on October 13th?
October 30. Probably not with Canada Post.
Okay, that's fair.
That's a fair argument, yeah.
Yeah, because it takes about 2 weeks for stuff to get here if you post it from the US, unless you like overnight it, which you don't want to pay for.
What if I bought the ship from
the store?
Yeah.
What ship is it?
It's a Fang.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll see.
Okay.
If I think I can get it to you,
that'd be pretty cool. I do like to have. Bob is my favorite painter, but I do like to have stuff from multiple painters. I've got something from Bob. I've got something from Tim. So I like to, and from Luke, I like to spread it all out.
Cool. Yeah, we'll work something out, Zach. You know I love you.
Okay.
So the last ship I bought was an initiative bid for Boba Fett as well.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, so that's going to do it for the pseudo news segment. We're going to move on to the main topic, which is going to be pillar number 2, arc dodging, coming up after this. Thanks, guys. All right, we're back into the main topic tonight. We're going to be covering the second of the 4 pillars of X-Wing, and that is going to be arc dodging. There is an art form to it. It is a very different style than what we covered last time, which was jousting. This one is mostly about evasion and firing off those shots at key moments where you're not getting shot back. These ships normally tend to be glass cannons, in the fact that they do a whole bunch of damage but can't take quite much themselves, and they tend to be on the higher end of the initiative scale so that they can shoot first and then kind of skedaddle and not get shot back at. So I think we're going to start mostly with some of our favorite ships that kind of fall into this category and sort of how we fly them. Zach, you're kind of our guest, so I'll let you pick 2 of your favorite arc dodgers and kind of describe how those ships function, at least in 2nd edition.
Well,
you've had some experience, at least.
Yeah, the 2 arc dodgers I like to go to in 2nd ed so far when I think about really not being there. I guess I'd almost lump them all together as all the supernatural carriers. So like the big 3 are probably Vader, Inquisitor, Luke. Because like moving later still obviously helps them out a lot. I mentioned earlier I love the Fangs, but the safest place for Fangs is still like pretty much range 1 in arc.
Which is kind of counterintuitive to the arc dodging because you're following in arc.
I mean, I love that aggressive play style. Like I mentioned off air that, you know, I really love Carner Jax too. Pour one out for him. There's a great explanation of what happened on the Crate podcast page that Ben Keller made. It's definitely not, I don't know what rating you guys want your visual medium to be here, but I'll save you from it. But I mean, I like that aggressive getting close, and it is easier to arc dodge when you're in close. But yeah, I really like. I mean, moving later still helps because you know more and you can leverage those actions more. Having more position actions, so like, I mean, the Inquisitor is probably the one that like most shows you, you know, like what that looks like, especially because like the very best arc dodgers really reward you when you guess right when you've set your dial. So like with the Inquisitor, like Supernatural Reflex is a great card for arc dodging, but with the Inquisitor, when you've saved your force points and arc dodge them naturally with your dial, you know, then you can spend that force point to get the range 1 bonus and start pumping up more damage on top of it too. So like really, if I want to talk to someone about like, this is, you know, like this is the ship that shows you the best arc dodging, I would probably point to the Inquisitor.
Does it help that he can supernatural and advanced sensors, Zach?
Yes.
Yes, that's
huge.
I
mean, do you really need the advanced sensors with the linked action?
Well, you're only so you can supernatural boost or roll into your red focus.
Yep. Clear it with a blue.
Yeah. Then take a normal.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you need to do the pre-move boost barrel roll, then whatever you dialed.
Yeah, that's an option.
Yeah, you might never use it, but when you do, you're still alive.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
I would go in with Zach there. I'd put Whisper in as well, because still the arc dodgy Phantom.
kind of back to having a little bit of precognition as to where ships might be, kind of thing. It's still not pre-nerf Whisper. She's not. No. And without the ability to go VI, she's not that high on the initiative scale. But
I counter Zach's point though on I feel like if you fly Fenro and Arc Dodge with him, if you're not getting shot, you are still safer than having Concordia.
Yeah, well,
it depends. Again,
I almost go back and forth on it, right? Yeah. So, like, if I land Fenrau and I'm range 1 in someone's arc, and I can just focus rather than barrel link to focus, freeing up that white one hard again really keeps his uptime higher, which is one of the weaknesses in Fangs in 2.0 is you spend a lot of time, all right, I'm going to bail out, bank a target lock, and come back in.
Yeah. But equally, you have the option to fly Fen as an arc dodger.
Yeah.
And so what I'll roll it back to how Ed opened up the actual segment and say that the key to thinking about arc dodging is that if they never shoot at you, you cannot lose the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Final salvo kind of aside. But if they never get a shot at you. So the thing with the first edition arc dodger would have been Sutnia Fell.
I was just going to bring my boy up.
Which I suppose the fact that you could just park him at range 3 in arc and you didn't need to dodge. But it didn't matter that Fell's offense.
Fell, I would agree. Yeah. Especially when the auto thrusters came into the game, I completely agree with that statement.
Yeah. The fact that his offense was lacking was irrelevant because he was worth a given amount of points that they never got.
That all depends on how you dressed Fell. I know a lot of people were a big fan of putting stealth device on him, so it gave him the extra evade dice. And you've got auto thrusters at range 3. You've got so many.
Don't you dare say targeted computer Fell.
I was going to bring up target because it really makes him a lot more, especially whenever he had the double ability to be push the limit. I know Gone and Not Forgotten, being able to have the ability to push the limit, get a focus and a target lock and a boost.
I can boost into range 1, target lock and focus. I'm dead.
I never did it that way. Well, I did because I'm guilty of being an aggressive player, but that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to be hitting it from like range 2 and getting just the extra target, like just the extra point efficiency for those dice.
Oh dear. Anyway, so back to 2.0. I think if you talk pure pure standard 2.0, what's released now, I think Rebels really suffer in that the only thing they have is Supernatural Luke, and he benefits from being able to boost every turn when he closes the S-foils, but it still isn't the best platform for arc dodging, in my opinion.
They have one other option, actually.
I'm excited.
And it's hot if we're looking at the extended format, because Big Ship Boost covers the same amount of ground as it did in 1.0, which was a lot. The problem now is when you're boosting, you don't have, all the passive mods for days of, I boosted and I can still, can't cancel 1 damage automatically and have built-in target lock and 360. But, I mean, that Big Ship Boost covers a lot of ground and can get you out of trouble. And Han can do it at 6. Or Lando can push it at 5.
In that same vein, though, what would you think about like dash and barrel rolling that big ship too? Because I mean, while boost gives you a different angle, if you've got Luke Gunner on board of dash, I mean, you can just barrel roll out of arcs and just be firing at them all day long with 4 dice.
The change to the barrel roll having to be in the center hurts big ships arguably more than the small ones.
And mediums. Yeah, that is a good point.
So I noticed Chad shaking his head when I was talking about Whisper. So
he's still not on board with her. It's one of his favorite ships from one. Well, I'll let you talk, Chad, by all means.
So for 2nd edition, talking Arc Dodgers and being an Empire player, I mean, yes, the Interceptor is a good ship there.
Just the chassis alone, just the fact that it's one of the few ships that can boost barrel roll. Exactly.
Yeah.
By definition, makes it good.
That's definitely a good one there. If you play Vader right or a TIE Advance, you can get some stuff going. The Inquisitor ship, the TIE Prototype Advance is good. Don't count out, though, the Striker.
I guessed you were going to talk about Rexler. I thought you were going to talk about Rexler. Talk about my boy.
No. I mean, yeah, I mean it's nice with the 4K that's white, and you can do this and that with him, but he doesn't have like a boost to him or anything like that. Whereas the Striker, you get
that boost now.
Yeah, it does have the boost.
Yeah,
I haven't flown him
boost
yet.
now, homie.
I haven't flown him yet in 2nd edition.
My boy Rexler, Chad, I'm telling you, he's coming for you.
Well, I was playing Rexler before the end of 1st, so I mean, I'm probably gonna have to look back into him. But the Strikers, no, I mean, you get the pre-move boost, you get your move, and then they still have a barrel roll they can do after that. And I mean, yeah, it's a small little rinky-dink ship, but I mean, it's got some maneuverability to it.
Chad brings up a really good point with the Striker. It twigged something in my head of, if you're looking at arc dodging, it's not always about trying to get in a position where you don't get shot and can shoot them. So with the Striker, they're really easy to force bumps with. So a collision is effectively as good as an arc dodge in a lot of cases as well. So if you don't think you can get around someone's arc, just slamming yourself into the front of them, denying them the shot at you is just as effective.
And then you can scoot out next turn and then be behind them.
Yeah. I think
that's especially relevant actually for lower initiative ships when you're trying to dodge. Is not only does that block deny their actions, but it denies them from shooting you.
Yeah.
I'm going to channel my inner Bob Randall on that one, because that was one of the things he used to always complain about in 1.0. And like, well, what was the point of a generic interceptor? Because it had the maneuverability, it had that awesome dial, but what do you do with it? Like you're not shooting you're not shooting first. What's the most effective option for you for a ship that maneuverable? And it's simply that I can get in your way. I can make sure that you're bumping me, you're not shooting me, and then I'm behind you next turn. And even though I'm low initiative, I'm still shooting at you, and you're not shooting me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I feel like there'd be so much more to this one.
No, it's a hard thing to talk about in the podcast format with arc dodges. We can go over specific ships and builds and stuff like that, and people can try them out. But the important things to think about when considering arc dodging is that you're not necessarily looking for the best move that you can do to get them in arc and get your shots off. If you're trying to arc dodge, you want to be able to just get out of their arc and not take the shot. You've got the entire game to do your damage, and it kind of takes a different mindset to what comes naturally of, like we talked about last week, lining your ships up, flying at people and rolling dice at each other. You need to switch that mindset off and be prepared to not shoot this round. If you can play for positioning,
for several rounds.
Yeah. And I don't think it's the easiest thing to do, and you need to consider the time in the game, the number of points you're on. You start getting into an actual competitive mindset if you want to play this way. You can still do it and have fun and use your interceptor, try and get in and zip around arcs and do different things. But when you talk about arc dodging, it's more about the actual style of the game you're going for. And you want to be quite controlled. You need to be looking at the options you have compared to the options your opponent has. And you've got to try and predict where they're going to be with their arcs so you can land in the position that either A, your actual initial move gets you out of arc anyway, or B, you've got the repositioning options to not be there.
I think a lot of it comes into about the way that you approach your opening too, where you're positioning your ships. Like when you're developing that flight plan at the very beginning of the game, if you're jousting, like you want to point at a ship and go and shoot it. And these guys are not the ones to be doing that. These are going to be the ones that are going to be the flankers or coming in from the rear. So when your initial setup, when you're initially setting up those arc dodgers, you're trying to put them in a position where they can have escape routes, be able to get around things. And if you're flight plan develops into 4 or 5 turns before you're where you need to be, that's fine because they're not getting shot at during that time frame. So they might be doing some of the wide arcs around the board and coming in from behind or shooting in through the rocks and just dodging an asteroid just to kind of not get shot at. That's kind of what they're designed to do. By turn 4, turn 5, they're where they need to be and they're throwing dice and they're not getting shot at. So a lot of that for me, especially with Arc Dodgers, is that initial setup, trying to set them up into a position where they're not going to get boxed in, kind of evaluating how your opponent is setting up his ships. Okay, I can kind of see where he wants to go and what he wants to do. I need to put myself in a position that my ship's not going to be there when they get there.
Yeah, and then another good arc dodging move I feel like people often miss would be the 3-bank barrel roll away. You're still in arc, but you're now past range 3. Barrel rolling out of range of people's shots is just as effective as trying to boost out of their arc, because there's quite a few instances where if you do a curved boost, the back corner stays in arc and stuff like that, and you've got to just practice it. And if you plonk yourself in the middle of their arc at range 2, what moves get you out of it, and all that kind of stuff.
And don't forget the bailout. Like there is no shame in taking a ship going, oh, I'm just going to bail out of combat.
Yeah, especially when you have like a lock action on the bar, which is why I was picking on the Inquisitor earlier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned it with the Fangs is, you get to a spot where it's all right. I'm happy with where my dial put me. Let's grab a lock so when I get back in the fight, I'm hitting harder.
Yeah. Make sure you pick it on the right ship though. Don't target lock the ship you're about to kill anyway.
What you should do is grab it on the lock for maximum on the rock for maximum disrespect.
Because you can do that now.
So I feel like I've got the best arc dodging ship in the game. I feel like the 12-point autopilot drone is probably not a ship to arc dodge with.
That's fair.
That's probably fair. Its dials is not very conducive.
You get 3 turns of arc dodging, then you die.
I mean, if it dies before they shoot at it, then they never shot at it. So perfect arc dodging, right?
Yeah.
Right. Effectively did exactly what it was supposed to do.
In all seriousness, another one I wanted to cover when it rolls back into actually the collision stuff, but the feedback array of get back in close. As long as you're not taking the shot, you can trade damage that way. Turrets, anything where you can point the arc sideways. YVs are good at where you're happy to be at the side of people and just open up on them that way. They tend to make good ships you want to try and fly as an arc dodger as well.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. For me, I think there's a couple of things when evaluating whether or not a ship makes a good arc dodger or not. First of all, it needs to be their abilities on board. Like what actions do they have availability to? And if they have actions like barrel rolls and boosts, those are good starts. Those are ships that are designed to be lighter on their wings and easier to move around. But then you need to kind of combine that with how good's the dial, how much blue's on the dial, because they're going to be putting themselves in positions where they might be getting stressed, or they have a linked action that gets them stressed, but it gets them out of the way. But then you can just blow that off and tie in. That's why ships like the Inquisitor, like the Interceptors for me, are really kind of like those prototypical kind of ships that represent what an arc dodger is.
K-Wings went to a medium base, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
They did.
There we go.
Yes, they did.
So,
although that's a good point.
K-Wings slamming out of arc.
K-Wings
Because
slamming out of
they're
combat,
even
period.
faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a ship I'm still looking at trying to re-fuss out, because the amount of places that you can put bombs with them now to be, hey, I've got a bunch of hit points, I slammed here, I'll live through, and I'm going to put a proton bomb right in front of you. I'm still trying to evaluate its effectiveness, but that's like a piece of information I've really been thinking about is, man, that slam goes further now.
Yep.
That it does. And Kris is right. I mean, even with the 3 banks or 3 turns, like, they are faster than interceptors when they're doing that. So they can not only get out of dodge, but then they can be back in with 3 turns in the following turn, and they're right back in there.
Gunboats can do that too.
Yeah.
Because K-Wing showed actually K-Wings don't actually have the 3 turns. Gunboats do.
Yeah.
That's true. And then gunboats are still on the small base.
And they can still get rid of their weapon disabled, can't they, if you take the right loadout?
Well, they
Or
can still
shoot
fire.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, they can still fire with the weapons disabled with the right loadout. That's a good idea.
There you go, Chad. That's another Imperial ship for you to gun people
to toy
down
around with. I've got 2 if you want to try them out.
Yeah, gunboats are probably one of the most capable ships in terms of like the strictly I'm going to put my ship where you can't turn to fire it. Just because of how much ground they can cover, having all the 3 moves available as slams.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give that a try next week.
Yeah, I feel like there's some good options for arc dodging, but the 2.0 meta is still like evolving around it. So at the moment, everyone is still obsessed with action efficiency in that 1.0 mindset of. So I don't want to stamp on one of the listener questions, but like Boba Fett, you push him in front of people, roll dice, it's fine. People are still doing that because it's efficient. It gets free actions, so it's good. I feel like the evolution should, if FFG keep doing what they're doing, minimizing that impact and correcting the points on things where they might make things too efficient, arc dodging should become more and more prevalent as the good players lean towards it, as it's something that's entirely in your control. There's no variance in what move you pick.
Yeah, you have to really kind of take into account the fact that damage sticks a lot more. That token stacking isn't nearly as much as a thing. So I don't know. I think the fire spray is another one. I don't know how. I haven't flown one, so I can't attest to how well the fire spray looks. But I look at some of those things that even have like those rear arcs, where they could do a bailout move and still get shots, so they're not getting shot back, and they're still getting shots out the rear.
The thing I always find with the fire spray is that the one bank puts that rear arc in some really cool positions, and now you can do that on a boost that's like built into a ship, and it's white. It's a white boost.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think the fire spray doesn't have any linked actions. Boo-hoo. Oh well. But if you can do some crazy stuff like Boba Fett with title. So you've got the old Fetigator and his scum ability, and then you can boost after it. He can do some yeah. But hey ho.
This one's a really difficult subject to talk about in audio format, because you want to be able to kind of show people like, well, here are some of the maneuvers that you can pull. If you can pull off a 1 turn here or a 2 bank here, kind of puts you here. Maybe we should consider doing a lack of focus, or we toss up
in focus.
Yeah, an in focus where we toss up some game or some engine that we don't are allowed to. Oh wait, we're not. Yeah, we're allowed to talk about that. Whenever Muon finally gets the new module out for.
Vassal.
Thank you. I was going to say, I'm drawing a blank for Vassal. Maybe we can throw up some stuff and kind of show some maneuverability and a lack of focus.
I think, isn't Vassal 2.0 up? I've played Travis Johnson in a Vassal game on 2.0.
I think
it is up? Oh, I didn't. Oh, see, this tells you how far back I am. I didn't even notice it was up yet.
Yeah. Well,
I've been playing online.
Well, that's going to change.
I do have plans to do some actual videos for DiceHate anyway, and try and go through all of the classics and Rule of 11 and, not credit my sources and all of that stuff.
I mean, I will tell you, if you guys are going to draw Vassal maps, people don't believe them.
Really?
People were stupid.
Unless they finally learned from 1.0, but we tried really hard to teach people things with Vassal maps, and they didn't believe us.
No, people like seeing the ships on a mat.
I have these cool trophies to prove it.
That's crazy, because I know other players, I won't name, but who would literally sit down and plot out their entire openings.
Well, you can name Bob.
No, I mean, broadly that's correct. But I mean, I remember during the NIM meta in 1.0, I'd be like, no, these are all the places people can bomb with NIM. I'd be like, I don't believe you. And like, so.
Okay.
This says finalist because Nathan ran NIM and I didn't. and Nathan showed everyone where all the places you could bomb with Nim on his way to being a continental champion, and I just showed people all the places you could slam with a K-wing. But like, man, people don't believe vassal maps. I don't understand it.
People are stupid, Zach. It's a common theme. We respect our audience and thank you for listening, but chances are,
I say maybe your listeners will respond to vassal maps.
Maybe.
Literally anyone who we could get them in front of didn't.
Not me, man. I after I first started playing on that thing, I genuinely believed it because you can replicate it on the table. Yeah. I think that's the trick. Like, I can see the disbelief saying, well, I don't believe that. Well, go test it. Sit down, set up a table in your living room, and sit down and try it yourself.
People
like,
don't test things. They put 4 X-Wings on the table and go, this should be good. The game's called X-Wing.
And then they scream at me at tournaments because my dice are so good on my fangs when they're constantly shooting on modded old Terok for some reason.
So I had a guy on Facebook yesterday tell me that 4 X-Wings with torpedoes would be better than 4 Phantoms with Duke that have a higher PS than the X-Wings.
Huh. I mean, Luke and 3 X-Wings might be okay, but I don't think that gets you points for torpedoes.
No. I can kill one of your ships before you fire because I control the engagement, because I can decloak, I have focus evade, I have Duke for all 4 of my ships. What do you bring to a table? Ordnance you're not firing? Oh, cool. Well, hey-ho, you know. The thing I hate about the new Lack of Focus podcast is I'm now the one who has to do the math. I can't be the one who talks about gut feelings and all of this stuff now. But so yeah,
that does kind of put you in that role.
It sucks at math.
No.
Trust me.
That's why I had other people do it for me. It was so much easier.
If you put 4 Phantoms with Duke and Focus in front of 4 X-Wings at range 1 X-Wing dies. You might lose a Phantom, but probably not. Depends on if you had to spend your focuses on the one that's the ideal shot for them. But yeah.
And then it goes from there. It's all downhill from there.
So they've only got 2 agility. Oh, it's okay.
Oh.
So do your X-Wings. And they lose one to Duke. Oh, I've got a focus token. Yeah, you've got 1. What about the other 3? I'm still juking you. Oh, well.
Oh, wow.
And then it's like, you only got to shoot at 1 of them. So then if I didn't spend the evade, the other 3 all cloak again. So yep. I outposition you the next turn as well. Oh, no, it doesn't happen. X-Wings feel like they should be better.
Phantoms are really durable and really good in 2.0.
Yeah.
Could you please explain that to Chad? Because I've been trying to sell him on Whisper, and he doesn't seem to.
I mean, you guys will have to tag Chris Allen in. Let me message him directly and see if I can get it. Well, 1 second.
Okay, so. I think we'll wrap this bit up and we'll see if Chris wants to come and teach us all about why Whisper's good.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move on to close out the show. Yeah, otherwise,
I would say the quick summary is because you can pretty much always have that evade and like Whisper can get it. Like once you've canceled, I think it's 2 damage with free evade tokens from Cloak, you're ahead. Because I think what the math was, but. Have Chris on; he'll explain it better.
Yeah.
Now, you're taking Juke on Whisper?
Yeah, that should be stapled to Whisper.
And Vader crew.
And Vader. See, I told you, Chad.
It's even funnier.
All right. In the meantime, we're gonna. What's that?
You've said nothing.
I agree. Whisper would be a lot better if she still had 4 attack dice. That is a true statement.
That is absolutely a true statement. All
Yes.
right, we'll go ahead and
That's
roll on.
that's a pretty hot take that 4 dice would make the ship better. Pretty ballsy of you to make that.
I put myself on the line for my listeners all of the time, Zach.
We'll run the
right,
math on it later.
In the meantime, we'll go ahead and close out this segment and close out the show right after this. All right, so that's going to do it for episode 8 of Lack of Focus. This is not going to turn out the way you think. This has been a ton of fun. Zach, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. This was special. This was cool to have a guest on. We have the old show. We used to do guests all the time. You're our first official guest.
Oh, man.
So we used to have an old rule on the show. If you were on the show once, you need to come back sometime. So you're always welcome to join us whenever you like.
Whenever we've got space.
I mean, yeah, if you need to put in a case of emergency break glass with a picture of me, Kris, I'm here for you guys.
Okay. Right, sweet. We might take you up on that, homie. We have a tradition. We have listener questions. Chad, I'm going to kick this one over to you. I have not cheated. I've not looked. I've avoided it. I know Kris got the question out earlier, so we actually have questions to answer.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and touch on the one that Kris was kind of talking about a little bit earlier. This one's from Adam Landon of the Kappa Cup group out there.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to know, is Boba Fett OP in 2.0?
So, do you have to caveat this? Are you talking about X-Wing 2nd Edition standard format, which is 2.0, or are you talking about in general? Because
I think,
yeah, the
extended format,
extended, that does make a difference.
I think in extended, definitely not. It's definitely not overpowered in extended. I think in standard, I would still say he is not overpowered. If you're going to fly your ship straight at him and let him control the engagement because he has boost, he has probably a decent initiative. He can control that. He's got reinforce. He's got a lot of tools to control how much damage you can do to him. So if you let him do that, he's going to be really good. The key is to not let him do it, which it's hard to not be at range 1 of him. So what you need to do is make sure that you're at range 1 of him, but not getting shot. So use your arc dodging. Get into his sides.
Which we conveniently talked about today.
Yeah. Realistically, if you're going to joust him properly. It's hard. He's good, but I don't think he's overpowered. And if he is, if I'm proved wrong, FFG will fix it. I have faith. I have faith until I am proved wrong that FFG will rebalance stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, he's a safe anchor. He's someone you can build your list around.
Yeah,
he's a ship that if you get to the end game in a 1v1, you're pretty happy about that.
He only gets 1 reroll then, Zach. Come on. He needs to be a 1v2 or he's no good.
I'm going to take the cop-out of it's too early to tell. We're 2 weeks into the meta. People are still throwing ships on the board and seeing what sticks. I know at the early onset, he feels super powerful, and I'm not disagreeing with that statement at all. A month from now, after people have seen it enough and know how to counter it and know how to beat it, I don't know that that's going to be the same. And I don't know that it's going to involve any point changes whatsoever. It's just a question of people seeing it and going, oh, this is how 2nd edition is played. This is how I respond to that. So I will agree in the early set. I agree with something similar with Vader too. In the early onset of the game, first right out of the gate, it's a really super strong ship. I don't know that we know enough about the game to answer that question properly.
So the problem with Bubba is if you give him rerolls and let him reinforce, you need to be rolling 4 dice at him. If you're rolling 2 or 3 dice, he's taking 1 damage a shot at most. He's got a decent hit point pool, and he's dishing out damage as well. And then he's got a butt gun, so can run away and shoot you still. So
I'm not disagreeing. I think he's on paper he's super strong.
I would be tempted if I don't know if this would work. I'm literally doing it on the fly because of this question. If I was flying a TIE swarm into Bubba, I'd be tempted to barrel roll backwards to try and get range 3 shots, and then 5 forwards to try and get at the side and then run. And just like run from
Get
Bubba.
half points and run.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like he does work pretty well into a tie swall.
Yeah, he'd probably chew me up, but I fly like crap, so I'm not
You
the
do.
best gauge on that one.
Okay. What's next?
Next question, Chad.
We got Rob Percival here. He says, which, if any, ships feel unplayable in 2.0? He says his vote goes to the TIE aggressor.
How dare you? How very dare you? Dorsal turret aggressors? Oh, okay, yeah, we're a bit bad.
I'm going to go back with my stock answer. I think it's too early to tell the answer to that question. I think that you're right. There doesn't feel like there was a good combination for that particular ship, but I haven't seen a lot of ships that I would say are flat out unplayable. I think they all have value. They all have merit. It's just a question of finding that key spot for them.
You can still put barrage rockets on an aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
So even that.
Phantom.
No. We will have to agree to disagree on that.
I'll fight you.
No, we don't need to go that far.
So
I'm
what
just saying
about... Okay, I've got one for you. I've got a good aggressor. This one's awesome. This is definitely not a rhyme or rabbit hole. This is going to be awesome. It's worth a wait by a full time. So you go with that upgrade. Yeah, that's good. And then you go
I'll commentate. Basically, we're looking at Kris clicking keys.
Oh, yes.
He's building a ship.
I'm ready. So you go with a 58-point Lieutenant Kestel.
Pizza.
He made a list of ordered pizza.
So the 58-point Lieutenant Kestel with Duke, barrage rockets, and Fifth Brother. So the only way to get the evade is by barrel rolling. So Duke's actually terrible, like objectively terrible. I'm just going to change that now because it seems bad. We're going to go outmaneuver instead. Yeah. So you fly up, you barrage rocket someone to death whilst focusing. Then you can use the ability to cancel their blank results so they can't re-roll. I don't know, just whatever. And then you get Fifth Brother to do crits. So yeah, seems good.
A little pricey, but seems good. Yeah,
it's fine. You can still put barrage rockets on it. It's not as good as a bomber with them because it's more expensive. But
I think people think of that ship and they think of the turret, though. You know.
Yeah. In all seriousness, a ship that I feel like it's just dead on arrival.
Phantom.
Still no.
Still no. You're the only one in that camp, Chad. I'm sorry.
I'm not sold on the Skurg in its current format. Medium base turret. There aren't really any good turrets. So you've got to really leverage those bombs, and you've got to go deep on the protons. Seismic's damage is finite because you need.
Nim might still be good.
Nim's still got his rebel ability, hasn't he?
Yeah, he can freeze bombs.
Yeah, it's rebel Nim's ability in Scum now.
I think the Scum Nim ability might have been better.
Yeah. Well, has he not got both? When you defend against an obstructed, he's got that as well. Because that was part of the Scum one, wasn't it? Defending against attacks.
Yeah.
And nothing's I'm sitting here going through ships and nothing's jumping out of me. The only one I can think of is no. Part of me thought maybe the old aggressors because they don't have access to the heavy laser cannons that they used to. But I think Worlds just recently taught us that you don't need to put out a high output of damage to make the aggressors fly well. I mean, you can sit there and do all kinds of cool things with it. With
not only that, but IGA is Manaru now.
Yeah.
Like, we know she was pretty good.
Well enough to nerf the hell out of a single ship.
Trandos, 666s. Do they bring anything outside of like funky tricks that you're probably a bit gimmicky?
I mean, Nash the Pup, it's what, 7 points for a Z95 when it dies?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a pretty good health
Does
bargain.
Does it have to be when it dies now? Is it only
The Nash the Pup specifically?
Yeah.
It can let other Z95s dock. So like you can dock a Z95 on Morello, and then now you've got 2 flankers wherever Morello comes at the board. But yeah, the Nash the Pup went from like, I don't know if I want to take this to
why wouldn't you take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 points in 2.0, so
7 points because you've got to take the title to allow it to dock.
Yeah. What about the quad jumper?
Oh, see, the quad jumper is awesome. Caveat.
Make your case. I want to hear it.
In the way that quad jumpers have always been awesome, it is still awesome.
I mean, it's not a lot more expensive than a Z95. The dial got a little bit better. It's got the reverse maneuvers that people like don't know how to deal with. And then one of the things, like, I mean, I gravitated towards it as soon as the chassis ability got revealed because there's not a lot of stuff where you can point at a higher initiative ship that hasn't moved yet and say he's going to have a really bad time.
Yeah.
But like, we were talking about arc dodging earlier. If you're in a time or place where arc dodgers are everywhere and the quad jumpers in format, that's a ship where you can grab it and go, oh, you're moving later. No, I can figure out the maneuver to point me at you now, and you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
So I can't even point to a ship that I think is really dumb and say, oh no, that's unplayable.
I think one of the 3 out of the Skurg, the Chemo, and the G1A might not be great, but I'm not sure which one it is.
That's the Phantom.
Here we go.
No, I agree.
That the Phantom's bad? Thank you.
Yeah,
No.
there you go. I agree on the Kimagilla because it didn't really gain anything that it didn't already have.
Oh, that's a good point.
But it's
got the most hit points. Doesn't it have the most hit points out of those 3?
Yeah, it's 9 hit points, but to make it useful, you're spending a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean,
the Skurg's got 10. Yeah,
medium ships. Yeah.
I want to like the Kimagilla. I really do. But I feel like you just spend a lot of points on it and then it explodes.
Yeah. I mean, I almost ran a Chemo in place of a Forlom in my list for the Gold Squadron Classic to get a better bid, and it's, bring a bunch of hit points and something that can point at if they bring like a bunch of TIE bombers with proton bombs or Nora or something, I can go, well, I know I'm going to end up with your proton bombs but luckily I have 9 extra health here, so we're going to be okay.
Okay, I'm gonna say if you're gonna take an undocked autopilot drone, that's probably unplayable. I feel like I've won the conversation now.
Phantom.
All right, Chad. Next question.
We only had one other question. It wasn't really X-Wing related, but it kind of is.
Toss it out there. Why not?
All right. So Scott, once again, has given us an interesting question. It says, suggestions for the ability for a Salacious Crumb crew.
So I have to be honest, I did read that because he commented almost as soon as I posted, so I saw this question. And after my initial thing of, God damn it, Scott, why'd you ask such stupid questions? I hate you so much. I love you, by the way. Was I thought that an interesting one that may step slightly into 1.0 levels of power would have been make it a crew card that adds a charge to anything you want.
Ooh. See, I was thinking more in the first edition realm of what like the Boba Fett card used to do, but only specifically on droids. So like you could it would come with a charge token, and you could spend that charge token
to disable any droid.
To disable a droid.
What if that droid's a pilot?
Maybe droid crew card. How's that sound? That is a good argument. No. But that would be kind of, I mean, it'd be very fluffy too. It'd be very Return of the Jedi, like him gnawing on R2-D2's eyeball or C-3PO's eyeball kind of thing.
Nerd card revoked.
I corrected it.
It's basically you're looking for an ability from a crew that was in 1.0 that isn't anymore that you liked, I suppose. So
yeah, no, that's probably a good argument.
I don't know.
But I made it very, very specific. Like Boba Fett's was super, like any upgrade you wanted.
Yeah.
And I made it very specific. Like it had to be a droid crew card.
I'd make it a crew card that takes up negative points. So the opportunity cost of having the crew slot you pay for, because that's how FFG works for some reason. You have to pay points to be able to pay points for something. So make it a Chardan refit for a crew slot.
Oh, there you go.
Start the game with a stress token, -2 points.
All right.
I like that. I can get on board with that.
Because
that actually turned out to be a pretty good discussion, actually.
Turn on Wired.
There you go.
I think it should be a crew card that says if it's on your ship, your opponent has to admit that Phantoms suck now.
All right, so if that's going to do it for the questions, I will, of course, mention our sponsor one more time, Galaxy Gaming Gear, where you can find all of these cool beauties that I will have to deliver to Chad, the Lack of Focus official podcast tokens coming to you at a tournament near a year that Chad attends.
Because that doesn't go.
Or you could be a Patreon to kind of go into that one. Kris, I know you've got some closing stuff you want to add, and then Chad, you've got some stuff, and then we'll call this one a night.
Yeah, so the prototypes for my DiceHate maneuver templates arrived. I need to paint them up, so I'll get those painted this week and hopefully show them off on the Facebook page, so make sure you check that out. They'll probably go to either the Lack of Focus Patreons or the DiceHate Patreons, and then I'll probably send some out, and we'll do some cool stuff with them. I don't know. Depends if they turn out and look good or if they look terrible once I paint them. And yeah, that's about it, really. I have nothing new that I can think of.
Chad, anything else you want to go on that one? Your closings?
Well, are we doing the closings, or do you want me to...
all right. I'll make it official. All right. So, Kris, you were our guest. I will thank you once again for joining the show. Again, always. Zach.
Yeah, Zach was our guest, not Kris.
Now I'm tired.
I am a guest in your house.
You are a guest in my house every 2 weeks.
It's not that big a privilege.
Always a privilege to have guests, and we're looking forward to the next time we talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Kris, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Thanks a lot, man. It's always good to be here.
Chad, always good to talk to you, my friend. I'll see you on Tuesday. You can kick the crap out of my next list.
See you next Tuesday.
Of course I will. But yeah, it's always great to be here. Yeah. Some Tuesday somewhere in the future.
Some Tuesday somewhere in the future.
Maybe when Third comes out.
Maybe.
And Phantoms are good again.
Yeah, hopefully.
They have 8 dice then.
But no, it's always good to be here. I want to thank all the fans for listening, watching, all that fun stuff. Don't forget to you can hit us up on Facebook at the Lack of Focus page there. With Kris always posts up the questions before each show. Hit us up email wise. We got lackoffocuspodcast@gmail.com. We do have a Patreon. If you want to help support us a little bit here and there, that would be greatly appreciated. Lots of great people do that, like Gustavo, for example. He just sent us, he does above and beyond the Patreon. He's,
Yeah, I can attest that Chad was using his Vader card on Tuesday. I saw it myself.
Yes, I was. That's patreon.com/lackofocus. If you're watching us, you already know that there's a YouTube channel. It's on their DiceHate. Is it still DiceHate, or do we ever?
No, it's DiceHate still.
Still DiceHate. Okay.
Everything's still
like,
on
share, subscribe, all those fun videos. You get to see Ed, see why I make fun of him all the time. That fun stuff.
Drop a comment too. That always helps.
Comments, yep. And if you're looking for audio formats, you're watching us on YouTube, and you just rather listen to us in the car or whatever, we got SoundCloud, Podbean, Spotify.
It's on the iOS one too.
The iOS.
I feel like we're at the point now where we can say wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Ha ha ha.
I don't know.
Wherever you want to listen to something, you'll find us there.
Yep. If there's a format we don't know, you let us know.
Make sure.
Wherever you go, there you are.
So I did pull up the list of patrons. I suppose I should read them out because they give us all of their monies.
Yeah, dox them.
So DiceHate Productions, Sean Dorcy, Ed Horne. Thanks to those losers. Then we've got Gustavo, Jerry, Peter, and Ronny. You guys are real heroes.
Yes, you are. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks
really appreciate it.
And if you go to our Patreon, you don't even need to actually be a Patreon, but make sure you check out the page so you can listen to some of the In Focus content that we do as well. That's the only place you'll find the In Focus content that we make.
Yep, that's a little side conversations where we take the hats off and go completely crazy and
actually stick to a script.
And actually stick to a script because we stick to one topic and just ramble about it for 20 minutes. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And as always, fly casual. Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out DiceHate Productions for all the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.